The critics have spoken, my friends, and some of them are just quite frankly tired of having to think about the deeper messages in everything. We're talking, yes, about Bad Bunny's Super Bowl performance, but we're also talking Kendrick Lamar's, and we're going back and back and back and back. And beyond the Super Bowl, people are just saying that I don't want to have to think. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the whys behind it and how we even came to this conversation after the intro. All right, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Donna. And this conversation came about because, as I think I told y'all, I have this bi-weekly space, or twice a month, where I get to talk to some very dope Black women. It's called In My Black Feelings. It is a free therapeutic community space where we get to be in our Black ass feelings about whatever comes to mind. There's always a topic, and we never stay on it. Actually, no, we do a really good job of staying on it for the most part. Anyway, this topic this time was the Benito Bowl, right? So we were talking about Bad Bunny Super Bowl performance, and I said, bring your good, your bad, your ugly, your critiques, your everything, because now is a time, and this is the space to be able to have your unpopular ass opinion in the space of people who will hear you out, and who may even love you for it a little bit. Now, what had came up was that one sister was just like, she's seeing a lot of comments out here, out on these streets, with people saying, I don't want to have to think. And another one hit us with the, but should they have to? Right? Like, she hit us with the, but why don't, are we asking the right question? Why don't people want to think? And she gave a really dope answer. And like, instead of it being an accusation, moving into a curious space. And she also answered the question, right? That there's a lot going on outside. This is part of the reason why people don't want to think. And then that got me into thinking a little bit more about it. And I find myself wanting to answer that question even more deeply, right? So before we get into it, for those of you who don't know me, hey sunshine, I'm Dr. Donna Oriowo, sex and relationship therapist in the Washington, D.C. metro area. I like to say I help Black women feel free, fabulous, and effed. And this was a real lit ass conversation. And I thought that I would share just a little bit of it with you. Now, generally speaking, I like to have three main points. I don't think I have three main points. I think I have various points. And we're going to go ahead and go with it. Point number one, or or I would say the thesis, as it were, is that some folk want to consume art without thinking. They want books, they want movies, they want Super Bowl halftimes, and they don't want to have to think overly critically about anything. They just want to be able to sit back, watch, understand it, and enjoy it exactly at the face value that it has. Heard, heard, heard. Um, and I think that, well, it makes sense that people want to be able to sit back and relax and enjoy things because, as the sister said in My Black Feelings, of which you can find the link if you would like to join us in these conversations in the description below, she was saying that, like, we don't know what's going on in people's personal worlds. We came off a panini, which we are still low key in. We're dealing with what's going on outside, right? There's ice outside. There's all kinds of things are going on out there. And sometimes people don't want to have to think and be in a space of constant remembering or having it the traumas and the things that they are uncertain of what even to do about forward of mind. And that sometimes people really just be wanting a dang break. And then I got into a space of thinking, who are the people who want a break? Now, when it's Black people, when it's people of color, I'll even go as far as to say, like, there are levels to this, right? Like, you have your Black people, you have your people of color, obvious people of color, you're not as obvious, but still people of color. And then you have your people of no color. Right? Like, if we put them in this level, right, then where it comes to the Black people and the people of obvious color, I'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. right? Like it makes sense because we're talking about the people who are getting the brunt of the anti-blackness, of the anti-immigrant sentiments, that are getting the why don't you just go back home, why are you here, we don't want you here, we don't like you, right? It's the stuff that sort of feeds into the idea of like imposter syndrome, um or lacking in self-esteem, the damaged self-esteem specifically, whereby the world just does not confirm what you already feel within you, so you are a little bit more quiet because you're just unsure. um but it's like it makes sense, right? Because there is so much stuff happening, and so much of that stuff can feel traumatizing and um can feel anxiety provoking, like where your sympathetic nervous system is constantly going, right? So your sympathetic nervous system being your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, where you're constantly negotiating your personhood, your humanity in the spaces that you're in, because people really just don't be acting like you are a whole human who gets to have feelings, who has thoughts, and gets to just be, where people are so against your existence that it can be exhausting. So sometimes tapping into entertainment is so that you can have some separation between you and the world around you, and the way that the world around you is consistently sort of dogging and dogpiling on you. So it makes sense, right? There's a desire for rest, right? And maybe even a desire for escape. But then I got to thinking about, what about people of not of obvious color, right? Like people of not obvious color. There's still people of color. They're just not obvious in the coloring. And it doesn't mean that they don't still feel the effects, right? There's still something that they are wanting and that they desire. And they may even have the additional stress of, because they are not a person of obvious color, that the people that they hold, that they believe that they hold in some solidarity, may not hold the same level of solidarity back with them, right? So there's a feeling of separateness and otherness from one's sort of ethnic or cultural whatever spaces, because of one's racial look, right? Because whether or not people want to say it, the way that we enact racism is based off what you look like, which means that the colorism, the texturism, and the featureism, they play a very large role. So if it doesn't look obviously this or obviously that, then you end up having a different experience, and people are constantly maybe asking you the question of what are you, which can feel like a lot, and can also feel like you are in some ways lacking in community, which can offer additional stress mentally, emotionally, etc. That does not negate that there is still power in not being obviously of color in a white supremacist world, or a white supremacist delusional world. So there's that. Now, for those folk, it's like, okay, they may also are feeling the heaviness of it, and feeling the solidarity with their obviously of color and black folk, and are wanting, and also want some space and some escape, while also because they are not of obvious color, and sometimes can be like, not that they are passing, because I think that passing has to be a choice that one makes in order to pretend to be white, in order to reap all of those benefits. But because they are not obviously of color, I think that they end up hearing a lot of the inner workings of our non-colored folk, of no color people, who spit such disgusting vitriol, right? So they are more likely to be privy to those additional thoughts, which gives them something even more and more heavy to have to think about, and to deal with, and to sit in, and to be with, right? And then you have your white folk, and I was just like, well, what is the desire there? And in some ways, I think that they also desire an escape, except I think they want to escape the visibility of their invisible knapsacks. I said that. Yeah, I think that people in positions of power who are now being called to task, who are now having more people be way more vocal than maybe we have been in the past about the um, about the benefits that they have been reaping from society, without thought, no whim, no care, no nothing, that they that there may be a desire for them to return to the part where their privileges were invisible to them and just felt like a given, as opposed to being inundated with having to consider what it means for them to have these things. And I was thinking about, okay, so from a therapeutic perspective, why? Why would people say, I don't want to have to think? Particularly people who already not been thinking about what life is like for people who are not of the majority, right? Who are not in positions of power. Why would you not want to think? And there are several reasons that came up in the research that I wanted to share with you. So I am definitely going to link at least one of the articles. So one is one is from a journal article, or one or two are from a journal article, and another one was from like Psychology Today or something like that. Because I was just like, well, what's up with it? And what it came down to is this: when we think, we feel, right? Like when we are presented with new information, we also then get to feeling whatever it is that we feel about that information. And based off that feeling, now we feel sometimes compelled to act. We feel compelled to do something. And sometimes we have no desire to do. So then we feel guilty about the fact that we didn't act, which is in and of itself, it's an action. That you're choosing your inaction is an action that you chose, but then you feel guilty about it. And it becomes this beautiful cycle where, because you are now aware of something as a problem, you feel the need to do something about it. So your awareness sparks feelings, sparks action, right? Thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, they tend to go together, and they are a very tight knit and quick group. So when you get to a space where you think something and you feel something, but you have chosen not to do something, you may still end up feeling some type of way about the fact that you didn't choose, right? And so cognitive dissonance will ensue, whereby you have to create some space between you and your thoughts, because in having those thoughts and the desire to do something about it, well, now your body, your mind, it needs to self-soothe. So instead of doing something with this new information and moving forward and making a choice and blah blah blah, it instead goes through a whole other cycle whereby you may conclude that the problem that someone has decided is a problem is not a problem for you, right? Like, that's not really a thing, so you'll say that it's fake, it's whatever, right? Like, this is the difference between like the conscious, unconscious, and disconscious bias, right? Conscious bias is you know about it, which I think puts you more in a space of being compelled to do something. Unconscious, you don't really know about it, right? Like, it's not even like you don't know about it. You don't know, but you don't know, right? And then there's disconscious, and I think that the disconsciousness is the thing that we throw away very quickly. Disconsciousness is that space where you have an inkling, but you're refusing to do any additional work or research, because in so doing, you make it conscious. And when it is conscious, now you feel like you must do something, right? So, further in the thing is like, you may have heard about this, but like, oh goodness, let me see. Look, I be writing notes, and I can't always read exactly what I wrote because my handwriting is quite poor. Mm, mm, mm. Anyway, something that came up was the Dunning-Kruger effect. So the Dunning-Kruger effect basically is where we think we know more than what we actually know. So when someone says like, gosh, it's not that deep, they may already believe that they know everything there is to know about the thing. And so they're not seeking any additional information. It is a bias towards oneself to say that one knows more and is more informed in this area than one actually is. So we overestimate our knowledge. And for some of us, when we believe that we are the baddest, the smartest, the whatever in the land, we stop seeking additional information. We stop right there. We are not interested in knowing anything that someone else says there may be to learn. The other piece is that we have confirmation bias. So if we were to look it up, the person who is saying the opposite of what we think we already know about something, so we're not going to listen to them because we are also seeking confirmation bias. So the Dunning-Kruger effect and confirmation bias deciding that they're going to get together and have a baby is reckless work. But when you add it also to the fact that cognitive dissonance plays a role and that like when the thing makes us uncomfortable, we start to change the facts of it. Jesus, it's amazing that anybody wants to know anything. So like when someone has when the question was asked like why don't people want to think, and that was the space that we should probably sit in and consider and really give space to. I'm like, what we're really saying is that people don't want to critically think. And critical thinking has a definition, right? I'm going to link this article in the description, but they essentialize the definition basically to say that critical thinking is careful thinking directed toward a goal. I want to make sure I say it again. It is careful thinking directed toward a goal, and it has 11 steps. I have the steps up, and maybe I'll also put them on the screen or something like that. But it's like observing, feeling, wondering, imagining, inferring, knowledge, experimenting, consulting, identifying, and analyzing arguments. That's one thing. Judging and then deciding. There are 11 freaking steps to even doing a critical thinking. And the and one of the top ones is feeling. When something evokes a negative feeling, cognitive dissonance can take over. We don't want to feel badly. We don't want to feel badly about ourselves in relation to whatever it is, whatever phenomena that we have been asked to observe, and to observe with a critical and careful eye. But the other thing is this, to what end? Because that's the point that I think we be forgetting with the critical thinking. To what end? We're asking people to critically think. To what end? If someone cannot see why they have to critically think about whatever it is that we want them to critically think about, so insert Super Bowl here. What is the end result of them doing this thing, right? Like people, there are certain things in life that people want and that our brains sort of go toward, right? It goes toward, like, is this thing gonna help me with my wallet, right? Is it gonna help me make more money or keep more money? Is it going to help me to get a partner or keep a partner or be happier in my partnership? Is it going to help my friendships? Is it going to support my family? Whatever the immediate next thing, right? Like, oh, is it going to help me get my car fixed? Is it going to help me keep my plants alive? Is it going to give me orgasms and make me smile? Is it going to bring me pleasure? Like, these are other things, right? Like, that may be more immediate desires in someone's world, and that may help them feel a little bit more secure, feel a little bit more grounded, and feel a little bit more safe. When we're asking people to critically think, oftentimes the thing that we may be asking them to critically think about is completely disconnected from their words. We may be asking people, we're like, what end should someone critically think about the Super Bowl? If it doesn't affect the clothes on their back, the roof over their head, the pleasure between their thighs, or pleasure in general, right? Like if it doesn't do any of those things, to what end would they be critically thinking about it? People are looking. Sometimes I think that we forget that entertainment is meant to entertain, and that some people are not yet or no longer in a space where they can take in the learning at the same time as the entertainment, because number one, we're inundated in this world. Every time you turn around, there is a commercial. Someone is trying to sell something to you or sell you, right? Or sell your information out here in these streets. There is no break from people directing messages towards you, right? Like they're the obvious messages, but then there are also the sideways messages. And sometimes people are, I think, mentally taxed. And within the mentally taxed, right? Like there people make 1,000 decisions a day. Actually, I don't know what the actual thing is on it, but people make a lot of decisions a day, and you can have decision fatigue. So making the decision to critically think about something that you only really watched so that you could be entertained may be a decision too far for some, right? But here's the other piece, right? Because I cannot leave out that we're also having a conversation, or that another part that we should consider is the racial part that I already brought up, right? And not even just race, but supremacy, right? And power, that the white supremacist delusion, the male supremacist delusion, that there can be people who are in positions of power who have never turned on, who are asking to turn off, right? Like they don't want to think about the invisible knapsack, right? Like this is why someone like Erica Hart, for example, had everybody, calling her anything but a child of God, because of what they talked about. I saw it on Threads. It's very likely it's also on Instagram, but one of the critiques that they gave specifically about Bad Bunny's bowl, um, speaking specifically to the colorism, right? That it's like the people who are face center are white appearing Latin people. And it's like, okay, why wasn't there a obviously dark skinned black Latin person as well? Right. And also when we think about, and when we are asked to think about what Latin people look like, what comes up in your head? Right? Because what is her name? Amara Negra may not be your first thought, right? That there are a lot of Black Latin people who are consistently getting erased or completely reclassified, right? Like they don't get to have their Latin heritage because they're not considered Latina or Latino or Latinx enough, right? So it becomes a whole other part of the conversation, but nobody wanted to hear it because that's too deep for something that they just wanted to enjoy, right? And because we don't allow ourselves to be of two spaces at one time. Two spaces being where you know how to enjoy something, but you can also critique the thing that you enjoy. We don't want to critique the thing that we enjoy. We just want to enjoy it, right? Like, I swear, I mean, Andre 3000 said it. Y'all don't want to hear me. You just want to dance. Uh-oh, right? Like, he told us. And I think that ends up being the thing. Like, some people don't want to hear or see any additional messages because they just want to dance. And then other people want to enjoy the messages that they did get, the things that they did see in, from their critical eye that they have shared with the world. Like that is a part of their enjoyment. And they want to share that, but they don't want to hear critiques of, not critiques of their observations, but critiques of the item that they saw that brought them these thoughts in the first place. They don't want to see somebody talking about the colorism of it all, because it's like, well, why can't you always got to find something to complain about, right? They don't understand the space between not just having a thought, but sharing that thought of liking something and critiquing it all in one time. That you can enjoy Bad Bunny's concert and also be like, I really wish he wasn't at the Super Bowl. That you can be of two mindsets, right? That like, yes, I understand his political message, and it feels like the wrong political stage to be on because it's the Super Bowl, right? It's knowing that Black folk do not require white accolades, but still wanting them to win the Grammy, still wanting them to win the Oscar, right? It's the duality of this space and how sometimes we're in it and sometimes we're back outside of it. But I would say this, for those people who are just like, it's not that deep, all art is that deep. It is as deep as other people think it is. And you get to say that you just want to enjoy it. You get to say that you just want to hear the music. You just want to dance. You just want to understand what's going on and have a good time, right? Like, but the best art is political, all of it. In any way, in any shape, in any form it comes in, it is already political. Even the idea of creating your AI images of your bobblehead with everything that maybe Chat GPT knows about you, right? Like you can create that thing and it's still a political message. If the political message is also that, like, for every, what they say, someone said that for every image or whatever that you produce, that is 16 ounces of water that is now completely unusable. That every time you use it, that is something that now has become unusable. That too is political, because thirst is political. Access to water is political. So all art is political, whether or not it is obviously political or more a little bit behind the scenes. And I would say that people being in positions of power, they are weeping over their right to comfort. I don't want to see. I want my Super Bowl to be in English. I want my Super Bowl to be apolitical. I don't want to have to hear political messages while still stealing the styles of music from Black people, while hanging on to the things that you stole, right? Like country music, rock, jazz, like all of this stuff. It's like you stole it. It was political in its inception, and you want to depoliticize it so that you can enjoy it without having to think. And you cannot divorce the source from the art that you stole. So, and that right to comfort, I think that's the thing that got us here in the first place, right? Right to comfort is one of the characteristics of the white supremacist delusion. I've linked it before. I will link it again. It will be in the description section. Um, but like the characteristics of white supremacy, the right to comfort is one of those things. The idea that you have so much right to comfort that you would require, I don't know, that you would steal land, right? Like you want the land, the right to what you desire and the right to the comfort of it, that you would kill off the people so that you could steal their land, that you would um, go and steal people from somewhere else so that they are enslaved to you in the here and now, and you work them until they die, right? Like that is like, it's the right to comfort that got us here. The right to believing that you also own anything that you desire. Um, I mean, Disney may have been accidentally radical, but you think you own whatever land you land on, right? It's a constant, the right to comfort and the Dunning-Kruger effect of it all that makes you think that you know everything and that you're right. The confirmation bias of it all, that you will look for the reasons to say why you're right while ignoring the very blatant ones that show you why you're wrong. It's quite diabolical, turning off that critical thinking, because the goal toward critical thinking may lead you outside of what somebody wanted you to do in the first place. And those 11 steps to critical thinking are a barrier. So, when it comes to why people don't want to think, I think there are multiple reasons why people don't want to think, why people don't want to think clearly, and why people will dismiss those who do. And I think that for depending on where that person is in our systems of power, I think that depending on what is going on in that individual's life, that there are multiple reasons why they could want it. That for Black folk, it may be that they simply desire rest and an escape that doesn't call the traumas and the harms and the hurts and the strife that they've already experienced. They don't want to see it again in their entertainment. And that at the same time, for folks in positions of power, they want their invisible knapsacks to be invisible once again. They don't want to have to think about the ways in which they have contributed to the world around them, to the way that their right to comfort has harmed other people. And so they're evoking again their right to comfort all over again to make us stop, right? It is the story of triangulation, right? It is triangulation being that you, someone else, and I usually say a situation are triangulated, but because you're changing your behavior, because we're talking about it, because we're adding the information, because we do the think pieces and all that other stuff, because we have moved in our little piece of the triangle, we moved down, we changed the shape of the triangle. It stops being an equilateral and starts being like a isosceles or something like that. And because it does that, it means that everyone else in the system must also do something different. Usually that other person. So the situation may not change, but you changed, which means that the other person involved must also change. So as Black people as people of obvious color and people of not so obvious color, as we have made changes, as we have spoken up about our experiences, as we have written the think pieces and called into question the white supremacist delusion, the male supremacist delusion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We find ourselves in a space where the people who have had power are now being required to change and they don't want to. So they will push back to try and move us into the position that we once took up. And so they will say things like, I don't want to think, and mean it with a whole chest. So, I mean, those are just some of my thoughts. I feel like this video I think I had a smile on my face maybe the entire time because I quite love the In My Black Feelings crew. And I certainly hope that you, my Black sister, will come and join us in My Black Feelings. The next one will be in a couple of weeks. We meet on every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. It is free. It is just a space for us to be in our Black ass feelings together. There's always a topic. Again, but you don't have to stay on it. Anyway, just I would like to know a little bit about how y'all feeling because I feel like I done said a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in here. So, and my ending question is this. When you don't want to think, why don't you? Why don't you? When are those moments where you're just like, I don't want to hear you. I just want to dance. Right? Like, tell me about those instances. And when you do engage in critical thinking, when you do take the additional time, are there certain circumstances that dictate it? All right. You are the bee's knees. Thank you for joining me for the Daily Donna with me, Dr. Donna. I hope that you have enjoyed this conversation. I certainly did, even though I wasn't all the way prepared. You know, no book, everything, and still couldn't read my own handwriting. Sad. But go ahead, have a conversation with me in the comments. And what was the last thing you ate? I'm still on food. If you made it to this point, what's the last thing you ate? That's what I want to know. All right. I mean, and if it was a person, keep it keep it appropriate. All right. See you tomorrow. Bye.